On April 20th, there was an explosion on an offshore drilling unit operated by Transocean and drilling for BP oil company called the Deepwater Horizon. The drilling platform was located in the Gulf of Mexico over the Macondo Prospect oil field about 40 miles southeast of the Louisiana coast. The explosion caused the rig to sink, killing 11 workers and injuring 16 others. As a result, oil began leaking into the Gulf of Mexico, creating the largest oil spill in American history to date. The Gulf of Mexico is a diverse ecosystem incorporating deep-sea ocean ridges and trenches, mid-depth banks, barrier islands, beaches, and estuaries. As currents and winds spread the oil from the mile-deep spill site, all habitats of the ecosystem were at risk of contamination. Estuaries and coral reefs are some of the most sensitive areas in the impact zone as they provide protection, feeding areas, and nurseries for a large diversity of species. NOAA has been involved in extensive research to map and understand the system prior to the spill and now in the aftermath. About 53,000 barrels of oil were gushing from the Deepwater Horizon well each day until a 75-ton cap was placed to block the well. An estimated 4.9 million barrels of oil were released into the Gulf of Mexico over the course of 87 days. Although research continues to determine the full extent of the damage, the spill impacted wildlife, habitats, fishing communities, and commerce along the large coastal areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Alabama, and Florida. Sea turtles and marine birds were some of the first wildlife affected by the oil as they live and feed in the surface areas where floating oil collects. Marine mammals such as dolphins and whales are other affected species as they must come to the surface to breathe. Oil accumulated on the skin of animals can make it difficult to breathe and move in the water. Oiled birds can lose the ability to fly, dive for food, or float in the water, which could lead to drowning. Oil also interferes with the water repellency of feathers and can cause hypothermia under the right conditions. Ingested oil can kill animals immediately. More often, it results in lung, liver, and kidney damage, which can lead to death. Extensive efforts to prevent more extensive wildlife impacts, rescue and rehabilitate oiled animals, and investigate possible long-term effects of oil exposure are ongoing. Fish, shrimp, and shellfish are integral to the food web of the Gulf as well as the economic health of the region. To minimize human exposure to potentially unsafe seafood from the spill region, more than 80,000 square miles of commercial and recreational fishing grounds were closed while scientists investigated the impact of the spill and cleanup efforts on these organisms. After careful research on the presence of chemical and microbial contaminants in the species from all levels of the food chain, portions of the region deemed safe by FDA and NOAA scientists were reopened to fishing. Monitoring continues to ensure safety of seafood and changes in the Gulf habitats. About 92,000 cleanup suggestions were made, but only 320 of them were categorized as promising. Some of the most common were controlled burns, chemical dispersants, skimmers, and manual hard labor. Skimmers are used to separate the oil from the water for easier cleanup. Controlled burns use waterproof booms to ignite large portions of oil to prevent them from reaching the shoreline. Chemical dispersants are sprayed from boats to pull apart the oil particles suspended in water to droplets that can be degraded by naturally occurring bacteria. 2 years later, significant progress has been made in cleaning up the oil, but some still remains and is still a threat to ecosystems throughout the Gulf.